I'm gonna fuck it up first time, but I'll get it the second time. All right.
All right, okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Cherry Orchard Primary School proudly presents to you the UK's biggest PlayStation dedicated podcast in the UK, the latest PS5, and we are celebrating episode 100 and thank you very much, 50 cent, or in the UK, 50 pence. And, what better person to bring it in than the namesake of the episode? We are here, 150 episodes of the latest PS5. It's a hell of a lot more when you count in the latest PSX and the rumor mill and everything else that we've done. But 150 core episodes of the latest PS5. What an achievement. And who better to do that with than my co-host himself, Mr. Alex Sylvester. How you doing, mate?
What's up? I should have like fireworks and big massive fanfare as well for this 150 episode.
I know. And few changes as well. Obviously, we're going to start bringing a lot more video to our Patreons as well. Hence, for episode 150, repping the new United shirt. Hey, United FC. Gotta rep it for the first one, right? You know what I noticed? Every time we hit milestones, we change something on the episode. You know what I mean? And obviously, listeners are aware that when the kind of time scale, especially Patreons, they know the time scale of when episodes come, but maybe not the people who listen to on SoundCloud or iTunes and stuff. So we're going to communicate that a lot more. So if you are a member of Patreon, you obviously get the episode either Thursday or Friday. If you're in the third tier, if you're in the second tier, you get it a day later, and then a couple of days after that, it goes live on free. So you could actually get it a number of days early via Patreon, completely advertisement free. And as I mentioned just a moment ago as well, video version of the podcast for tier 3 podcast listeners on Patreon. But we had loads of plans about how were we going to make 150 fun. But then, a story that we've been talking about for over a year decided to drop bomb after bomb after bomb. So this is a news-heavy week, more than fun, right? So what have we got planned for this episode? Exactly that. We're going to be talking Microsoft and the FTC court case over and over and over again because there's been some juicy info. We've got a delay on a huge game on PlayStation 5, which we're going to talk about as well. Blade Runner is back. Let's have a chat about it. And of course, there's that rumor, that tiny inkling of a cowboy coming back to PlayStation 5, and people lost their shit. So we're going to talk about all that as well. But before we do that, Alex, what have you been playing besides Zelda this week, if anything?
Pass, which is what Microsoft should have been saying at the FTC trial. But anyway, yeah, I've been playing nothing but Zelda. It's just pretty much just been Tears of the Kingdom. And what a game!
Thank fuck you finished it. I was gonna say, thank fuck you finished Detroit before you started that, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, tell me about it, man. But there's just so much to it. I'm seeing reports of people putting in 100 hours, 200 hours, and it's just like 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5, from across the board. And I just keep thinking, if this game was ever released on the PS5, imagine how impressive it would be with the haptic feedback on it. It would have been so sick, but that's just wishful thinking. But yeah, I've just been playing that. So no PS5 games this whole week, and it probably won't be that way until
well, obviously, coming out of the court case, it's not in a news story. Bobby Kotick, obviously the head of Activision, has said under oath, he's basically let the cat out the bag that yes, there is a new Nintendo machine coming. It's parallel in power with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So Nintendo are not going to look. No, you're not saying that shit, and it ain't happening. You know it's happening, and it's kind of the power jump we thought it was going to have because Nintendo don't need to focus so much on supreme power. Someone's at my front door, or anything like that. And there's a Zelda remaster coming out. You know what I mean with that power. So you're gonna get something like that.
Oh yeah, man! Exciting times. Yeah, man. So that's what I've been playing, but I can't wait to get through it because as soon as that's done, hopefully Final Fantasy 16 will be at a nice discounted rate for me to pick up.
No, mate. No, you can't jump from Zelda to a similar huge AAA game in
Oh,
Final
you're right.
Fantasy. You
You're right.
need a
I
break.
can't take a
You
step
need
down. I
that
can't take a
break.
step down.
You need that little break. And what better than going on PlayStation Plus Essential and playing Trek to Yomi, the samurai black and white game I was telling
Oh,
you about?
good shout.
Yes.
Good shout. Good shout.
I had a
Good
quick
shout.
blast on it. Pretty decent, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the
Okay.
funny thing is, as I was playing it, I knew I wasn't going to get into it straight away because I'm going to come back to it. But as I was playing it, all I kept thinking is, this is an Alex game.
Nice.
All
Nice.
in Japanese dialogue, all
Love
in the aesthetic of like black and white and old samurai.
Old
And
school,
even though
the
everything is
classics,
mapped
but
to like the face buttons, the combat, it's still like you cannot fight behind you without pressing a button to switch it. You know what I mean? So it's really cool. The stance changes and stuff like that. So I was just like, yeah, this is an Alex game through and through.
Nice.
I'll come back to that later.
Yeah, yeah.
Down the line.
I'll put that on the
VR.
next.
I've been playing Horizon, Call of the Mountain. I've been getting higher and higher. And obviously puzzling places, ladies and gentlemen, the current ultimate greatest VR game of all time. So playing that, but I've been powering through Dying Light. I didn't play anything the last over 2 weeks ago. I was dead. And listeners, hence why Alex did the episode and anchored it himself. I was literally, it wasn't a virus. Okay, now imagine this, right? Imagine the frustration of having a cold where you get everything. Sometimes you only get one aspect of a cold, whether it be a sore nose, or a block throat, or sore throat, or something like that, right? I just got that completely wrong. A sore throat or a blocked nose. That's what I meant to say. I said it the other way around. So I had all of it. And then on top of that, I got fucking hay fever.
Oh, yeah.
So my nose was blocked and running.
Yeah.
My throat was double sore.
Yeah.
My eyes were puffed like I just went around with Mike Tyson. Do you know what I mean? And they were itchy as hell. I was just literally deathbed. I couldn't even do a rundown because I couldn't even see the screen properly. My eyes were watering. I did not watch anything. I did not play anything. I didn't barely use my phone. I literally scraped through the Mandalorian out towards the back end of getting better. So yeah, you know. Well, anyway, Dying Light.
I did update the listeners last week, and I did actually say that it was because you got your ass whooped. 3 games from Sunday, obviously Tekken, Mortal Kombat.
It's funny because when I first heard it, I was pissing myself because I was like, this guy's doing stand-up comedy on the episode. And then I thought to myself, I was like, I'll retract him and I'll respond to that. Then I thought, well, the listeners know that's all bullshit. I'm not going to add fuel to the proverbial fire, right? So there's no point in that. But
episode 200, the showdown. Anyway,
no, we're not waiting that long, mate. As soon as Tekken 8 is out, we are doing this.
If Elon Musk and what's his name, Mark Zuckerberg can go at it on a UFC fight, I'm sure we can do something which is going to be equally as hype worthy. So
yeah, but as long as it's digital, we ain't doing physical. You'll kill me. But I'm talking about Tekken 8. I'll whoop your ass. But
yeah, come on, bring it, man.
Before we move forward with all the news, let's do what we always do and let's move back into gaming history, Alex. And there's some big things that happened this past week. So 36 years ago, in 1987, small game came out, launched on something called the Mark III, and that was called Outrun. Do you remember this game? Do you remember the time of driving in the Ferrari?
Oh, yes, I do remember Outrun. Jeez, wow, that's a blast from the past.
And it was literally 30p at the time in the arcade machine. Can you reach the end of the map?
Yeah, it's an arcade mainstay. I remember that. Wow.
29 years ago, in 1994 this week, Super Street Fighter 2 launched on the Mega Drive and the Super Famicom. Now, again, we spoke about it many times. Street Fighter 2 really helped the Super Famicom and the SNES, or specifically the SNES on the Western side. It was always doing fine in Japan, but it was being trounced by the Mega Drive until Street Fighter 2 came out. So Super Street Fighter 2 obviously eventually comes out down the line. And that came out 29 years ago in 94 this week. 25 years ago. You know, sometimes a game will come along and no one thinks anything of it. And then you fast forward 25 years and it has become the most important game in the world, the most controversial game in the world, and the biggest selling game, you know what I mean, in terms of full AAA. But 25 years ago, a little top-down game came out. You know, it's just a small thing called Grand Theft Auto launched on the PlayStation, and the rest, ladies and gentlemen, was motherfucking history. You know what I mean?
Before you move on, I mean, remember this game, yeah, top down in its cartoon graphics was discussed at the House of Lords. Imagine the heart attacks that they would have today if they saw what it's evolved to with the likes of GTA 5.
I know. It's absolutely crazy. And just a year later, in 24 years ago, in 1999, Dino Crisis was released on the PlayStation. Now, people would think Dino Crisis, like, ladies and gentlemen, you understand, this game was fucking sick. It was literally Resident Evil ripped off by Capcom, same engine, same character models, everything, but just replace the zombies with dinosaurs and make it less and more scary and jump scary. And it was cool. And there's nothing scarier than walking down a hallway and instead of a dog coming through, a flipping raptor jumps through. You're like, yeah, I'm out. I ain't got enough bullets for this. You know what I mean? So absolutely amazing on that one. But Alex, are you ready for some news?
Oh,
are you ready?
I think
another wrestling reference. All right. I don't know where to start this, but I think I have an idea. So since the very beginning, we have updated you on the Microsoft Activision merger and the implications that it has for PlayStation. Since the very beginning, we have given our thoughts and opinions on each breaking story. And for months, we even started each story section with its very own intro music. And even though we are now finally reaching the end of this crazy cinematic universe, today will be no different. Right, we're back. So over the past week, both Microsoft and the FTC have been in a trial in America over the possibility of this merger happening. Alex brought you some updates from said trial on last week's solo album episode. This week, we have more, but where to bloody start, mate? Now, there are some stories that are so juicy that instead of just cramming them all into one, we've given them time and space and separated them into separate story sections. So don't worry if you think we've missed anything. So that's how much news has come out. And we're not going to go over everything. That's how much has come out, literally. Yeah. So I'm going to start with Jim Ryan, Alex. Our boy Jim over in the UK. So Jim Ryan took the stand in a sense. He appeared through a pre-recorded video during the FTC's case against Microsoft today, and his deposition shed light on where Sony stands on some of the key issues regarding Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Now, listeners, I just want you all to know, this isn't a court case of Microsoft versus Sony. Officially, it's Microsoft versus the FTC. Shadowy, it's Microsoft versus FTC powered by Sony. You know what I mean? That's what it is, really. So he was obviously talking about the proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard. On the acquisition of Activision, Ryan is staunchly against it, as we've already heard. He confirmed that he did indeed make it clear he wanted the acquisition blocked and views the deal as anti-competitive. Ryan confirmed that he did indeed tell Activision's Bobby Kotick, "I don't want a new Call of Duty deal. I just want to block your merger." When confirming the meeting in court, Ryan said, "I told him that I thought the transaction was anti-competitive, that I hope the regulators would do their job and block it." But Ryan doesn't see everything Microsoft is doing as anti-competitive. He understands there's a way to play the game and that he's not going to like everything that his competitor does. On making Bethesda titles like Starfield or Arcane's Redfall exclusive to Xbox, Ryan said, "I don't like it, but I fundamentally have no quarrel with it. I don't like it, but I don't view it as anti-competitive." Right, I'm going to stop there. Alex, we already knew Jim Ryan didn't want it to happen. He's already said he doesn't want it to happen. But obviously, it's just going over it again. And he did confirm that I don't want this deal to go through. You know, I'm here to block the deal. Now, what's interesting here is it came out, I think it was about a week and a half ago. It might have been I think it was just after you recorded, that in the contracts breakdown that were initially redacted, which was the start of poor redaction in this trial, it came out that in these every 10-year deal Microsoft has signed is a section where it says at any point in those 10 years, Microsoft can change the terms to continue that 10 years at any point. right? And that is the big stumbling block that Microsoft have, you know, because you think these 10-year deals are great, but Microsoft, as we kind of hypothesized that they could change the deal at the end of the contract, but they can actually do it at any point. They could turn around to Nvidia and say, nah, we want 99% of revenue now, or we're going to cut the deal. They can change whatever they want. But your thoughts on, obviously, Jim, I mean, we know all this already, but Jim Ryan, you know, properly.
You know, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think we've battered Jim's opinions to death, and I think it's echoed throughout the whole of this case. But yeah, I mean, too right. That's what he has to say, right? You know, I mean, you may as well. He's not going to say, yeah, I can't. I'm encouraging this deal to go through because it's going to kick them in the nuts financially. So yes, he's doing exactly what he should be saying, and he's playing by the book. But to be honest, will anybody listen? that's the main question, really. And that's the FTC trial is going to figure this all out. But yeah, nothing else to say. I don't know what else we can say about Jim's.
Well,
Jim's
on top of that now as well, I think Microsoft pissed off Canada because they said that only in court, they said only. They've made a lot of mistakes. They called Elder Scrolls 16. They had a map where they pointed Japan to be where South Korea is. It was quite funny and interesting, isn't it? But Canada came out with a statement saying they're not the only countries, we've blocked you as well. We did not approve you under anyway. So Canada has also blocked us. Canada, America, and the UK. Moving on. During Jim Ryan's deposition as part of the FTC v Microsoft court battle, Ryan was questioned about cloud gaming and where he believes it falls in the industry and how important it is. In response, Ryan said he doesn't think it will be an important or meaningful component of how players interact with their games until about 2025 and will take the next decade to grow. He said cloud technology will become a meaningful component of how gamers access games between 2025 and 2035. We're making significant investments in cloud in anticipation of it becoming a very meaningful way of how gamers access games. Now, he's obviously talking about all the acquisitions that they've done with Bungie, the transition to having studios doing live service on the side of solo games as well. And Project Q, the handheld, if it's a cloud-based game, you can stream to that straight away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, you're the tech guru, 25 onwards.
Tech guru. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, obviously, this whole cloud gaming generation kind of kicked off with Google Stadia, didn't it? And that kind of went to a flagging.
What amazing tech, just wrong company.
Exactly. But it showcased exactly what was capable with this tech. Obviously, they had the best version of Cyberpunk when it was flagging on all other systems. They had the most stable system on it, and it was running beautifully with 60 frames per second.
Dude, they had Destiny 2 running at 60 frames per second. Destiny 2 live service game running on Stadia. You know what I mean? And it was comparable.
Exactly, and that was years ago. And now look at this. I mean, they're now. You got Jim talking about 2025 being where the cloud kind of takes over. We've seen the likes of, obviously, Xbox has made it very clear of their intentions for the next, well, that's their plan. They're going to be that online gaming cloud company. Now that Stadia has flagged to the waistline, we've also got Amazon taking their place now with Luna, and they're now trying to continue that and push that forward. So it's only a matter of time before Sony makes that other leap to launch a lot more of their games on cloud. Obviously, we've got PlayStation Plus, which is kind of like that gray area. We've only a few. We've got PlayStation 4 games, which are the PlayStation 3 games, sorry, which are streamable. But it's only a matter of time before it starts to leak onto the other more current console.
Yeah, well, they've already said they're testing PS5 games. You know what I mean? So,
and it's like we're doing it already. I mean, anybody who's playing remote play like myself, I mean, that's cloud. That's essentially what it is. You get access to your games anywhere you want. It's only based on the internet connection. So they know they've got the tech. It's just whether they can create a significant model for people to invest into it. And it kind of, I don't know, it kind of hurts their core brand as being a console manufacturer. Whereas Xbox, they've always been pushing their live services, and that's their main focus. If Sony do this, it won't really be, having a PlayStation won't really be the main focus. It will mean that whenever you've got a compatible device, you'll be able to play their cloud games, and I'm sure they're trying to figure out exactly how they can monetize that. And I'm sure Nintendo would be looking at direction as well. I mean, we already saw reports about the Nintendo Online being a core pillar in their plans going forwards with their next console. So cloud's definitely going to be the number one focus on everybody or all these developers' lips for the next 10 years. But yeah, only time will tell. But I do like the window that he's given, 2025 to 2035. It just makes sense. And it'd be a lot more cheaper for them as well, just to have just one server just running, and people just pay like a monthly fee. That would be a lot more beneficial and profitable for them. So only time will tell.
Definitely. Moving on. Not all rosy on the Xbox side. So according to an internal email from the head of Xbox Game Pass, Matt Booty, reveals that Booty wanted to tap into that spending power and
Sorry,
use
can I just
it
stop
to...
you right there? That Booty wanted to tap that just like that one line. Really wanted to tap that. You need to remix that line.
You spot it. You spot it. And use it to essentially run Sony out of business. Specifically, he said, spend Sony out of business. That's actually what he said. Booty's email comes as part of a longer chain, which we haven't seen due to redactions, but it looks to be part of a larger conversation as to how Xbox could grow its business and strategically move up the ladder, which could have potentially included Xbox not releasing its games into its Game Pass service. It's within this larger conversation that Booty points out one of Xbox's biggest strengths and how Sony, more than anyone, is Xbox's biggest competition now and in the future. He goes on to say, we, Microsoft, are in a very unique position to be able to go spend Sony out of business. If we think that video game content matters in 10 years, we might look back and say totally would have been worth it to lose 2 billion or 3 billion in 2020 to avoid a situation where Tencent, Google, Amazon, or even Sony have become the Disney of games and own most of the valuable content. We knew this was happening. And then this was asked to Phil Spencer on the stand by the FTC lawyer. And he goes, oh, that's a strategic thing that was briefly brought up a couple of years ago. We never acted on it. He walked right into it because the lawyer turned around and said, okay, so spending over $80 billion in the last 2 years isn't that, you know what I mean? Like, what, and obviously Phil just replied with no comment.
What else can you say?
But I mean, we knew this is the sort of stuff that Microsoft have, because Microsoft, it's come out as well that they have internal projections on what they want Xbox to bring in, which it's missed. This last year, Game Pass subscribers have, plateaued. They're not growing as fast or growing as much as they thought it would anymore. And again, it's just down to software, isn't it? If you get the right, it's like PlayStation Plus will always see a spike when a great game hits it, and you're just seeing that here.
Yeah, they did a good job with the Xbox showcase they had. What was it called?
Yeah, exactly. It was just called the Xbox showcase.
But yeah, but it was missing some other key franchises. I mean, one that I was actually looking forward to was Perfect Dark.
That game is in. I can't believe how long that game has been in development, and they only just come out and said it's in early development. I'm like, what
early
the hell
development
are you doing? Like, we're going to talk about Sony in a minute. Sony started and made The Last of Us by this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, what
exactly,
the hell is going on?
Yeah, but this email was a very interesting email. I did take some time to check it out. I mean, he's talking about Tencent, Google, Amazon, becoming the Disney of games for the most valuable content. But when this email surfaced, I mean, what originally was created or typed up was like 2019. At that stage, he wasn't looking at Nintendo as being a threat, which obviously now it is. So we should really be adding Nintendo to that list of.
Well, this was pre-lockdowns and everything, and we talk about the pluses that lockdown had for PlayStation Network and for Xbox Live, but the biggest winner was the Switch because you got to fucking shut kids up, you know what I mean? And it worked, but. Yeah, man. And that's not even the end of it. There's even more, Alex. And when I said it wasn't all rosy on the Xbox side, this was the big one. An internal email from Bethesda's Pete Hines reveals that Microsoft had told Bethesda its titles were to become Xbox exclusives. And Hines seems frustrated to see the opposite being said to the public regarding Activision Blizzard games. When Microsoft announced that it had acquired ZeniMax, the writing fell on the wall for PlayStation fans that the biggest titles coming from Bethesda in the future would now be exclusive to Xbox. As time passed, that seemed to be exactly the case, with Redfall and Starfield both named as Xbox exclusives, though PlayStation fans are probably not all that miffed about the latter of the two skipping PS5. Then, when Microsoft announced its acquisition of Activision Blizzard, fans took a different approach, believing there was no way Microsoft would take Call of Duty and other Activision heavy hitters off PlayStation, and publicly that's what Microsoft has been trying to echo. This internal email from Pete Hines, however, dated back to 2022, which was, just last year, shows that Microsoft was saying one thing to Bethesda, another to Activision Blizzard and the public. I'm confused, begins Hines. Is the below not the opposite of what we were just told to do with our own titles? What's the difference? Hines then copied part of the Xbox blog post where it promised Sony regarding future Activision titles that we will also make them available on PlayStation beyond the existing agreement and into the future so that Sony fans can continue to enjoy the games they love. We are also interested in taking similar steps to support Nintendo's successful platform. Hines, did anyone at Xbox think about giving us a heads up on this, said Hines. That's Todd Howard, is going to DICE in a couple of weeks. You don't think a journal might find him and press him on why the blow is okay for COD or any Activision Blizzard games, but not the Elder Scrolls 6 or Starfield, or at every future interview he does? We don't know how Xbox responded to Hines' email, but we do know that Hines maintained titles from Bethesda would be made exclusive to Xbox or not on a case-by-case basis when asked about it in the courtroom for the FTC's lawsuit against Microsoft. So where Phil Spencer says case-by-case, Hines threw him under the bus and no, it's not case-by-case. It's all exclusive, right? Big one there, you know what I mean? And obviously the bigger thing that came out is why did Microsoft buy ZeniMax? Why did they buy Bethesda? And it came out that Sony, they got a real eye to spot a third-party gem to make exclusive. We know they've done it for a long time. And Starfield was one of those titles. They went to Activision, they got Deathloop, they got Ghostwire Tokyo. They were discussing with Starfield about making it PlayStation exclusive, something Activision were open to. And Microsoft actually, Phil Spencer himself says, yeah, we bought them because we didn't want to lose Starfield. So, oh my God, Sony's going to get Starfield. Here's $8 billion. We're going to buy you, right? Do you know what I mean? And it's crazy, just to think that. And you could see this sort of thing was happening. Like Activision makes so much, the expenditure to buy Activision is so huge. Obviously, one of the higher ups at Microsoft, I think the CFO or the CTO, Amy something, said it would be suicide because this deal has to make money straight away, no matter what. And obviously taking Call of Duty away from PlayStation negates a large portion of money, which we're going to get to in a bit, away from that. But yeah, it does seem, again, this is what I talk about with Phil Spencer. He's not a great head of like a gaming division. We've seen that since he's took over in their first party lineup and following and the acquisitions and the games that have come from those acquisitions and stuff. But I mean, yeah, Bethesda seem pissed. Do you know what I mean? Because they're losing money and revenue, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're creating these games thinking that they're going to try and, get it across a wide audience. And now they're just told it's going to be a smidgen of the actual gaming market. But who knows, that might change because obviously money has the power to change people's minds over time.
I'm telling you, it's the long-term goal, Alex. Get the content on Game Pass to a point where Sony cannot say no to Game Pass. You know what I mean? To get those games. That's what it is.
Well, yes, Sony can't say no or encourages Sony just to make some more heavy-hitting games. But like, Xbox or Team Green is going for legacy titles, the CODs, the Elder Scrolls, and now it's soon to be Starfield. I guess Sony just need to make sure that they've actually just or either creating, some brand new heavy brands because these ones are kind of tired. I mean, everybody's using them. They're almost like a platform now, isn't it? Like COD. If Sony can actually invest their time and their ingenuity, with all the companies that they have and create something which is just going to be a lot more compelling, then they won't have to worry about this. They can actually just make these games and titles to seem like their legacy, they're great, but the games industry shouldn't be limited to what these companies can actually develop. And like I said, I mean, this has worried me from the beginning, is that it just really seems like these companies are not lazy, but they're starting to understand that the market itself is getting saturated in terms of games that actually make, you know, real money. And it just seems like it's limited to these two, well, these major franchises. And nobody's really creating any brand new titles and developing them. Like in that game that we've been playing, that Game Dev Tycoon. I mean, you've got to create, you know, a brand new game every so often, right? You've got to create something which is going to be a brand new franchise and hit, which can then grow. But it just seems to me that these companies are getting lazy, you know. And I guess it's all business. These want to make money, but come on, use your ingenuity, use your imagination, and come up with something creative and new for the gaming masses. Otherwise, you'll die.
And I think what Eastern developers, especially Sony and Nintendo with the Switch generation, have learned is they know how to do AAA, but they know how to do a AA in between to keep the roadmap going. There's a Sony game, like you look at from the PS5 launch to now, there's so many games, whether it be PS5, VR, PlayStation Store. Sony signed like little games like Stray, Genshin Impact, these sort of games. You know, Nintendo, you got your Zelda, you got your Mario, but you've also got Splatoon hiding under there as well, filling gaps. Microsoft can't fill those gaps. They talk about, 5 years, 4 years, 5 years, but there's nothing filling those gaps. How long did we go towards the end of the Xbox One and into this generation? There's just nothing except Forza. You know what I mean?
Also,
And
yeah,
Halo
it,
or
yeah.
whatever. And it's just like you killed your Halo franchise,
Yeah,
dead.
it's
Like
true.
that is a dead franchise. And it's just crazy. And that's probably why also in this court case, it came out that Phil Spencer floated the idea, you know, wanting to buy Bungie, wanting to buy Sega. And Sega says, yeah, we ain't for sale. You know what I mean? Sony went in and
That would have
obviously
been a
bought
good purchase, though. That would have been
it.
really good.
It
I
would have
feel
got
like
them
a
in the
lot.
Japanese market. But I think at
Yeah.
the same time, you want to talk about the death of Sonic. If anyone can kill Sonic, it's Phil Spencer. Do you know what I mean? So I'm happy that didn't happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it would have been bad.
But I mean, Bungie as well. They wanted Bungie. They spoke about the technology that Bungie have and implementing it. But Sony obviously went in, swooped, paid what they did, and have Bungie now, and came out straight away and says, "Yeah, we're never ever going to make everything in development. Everything currently planned for development is multi-platform to everything." That's why it went over so quick, because there was no dodgy contracts, no dodgy paper. It was just, nope, this is it.
Yeah.
You know, but listeners, if you want to read a lot more about this court case, you can. You just got to search Microsoft versus FTC. There is live threads from all news companies, all business websites, where you'll read a lot about business talk and a lot of business jargon and stuff like that. But we're going to move on because we're focusing on PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to replay the jingle because the next two stories are dedicated to this story. So we're going to move on to game.
Okay, so we're going on to Microsoft again. So their legal bout with the FTC has revealed more than a few pieces of info that all parties included would have likely preferred kept private. And a more recent addition to that list is Sony's huge budgets for a number of its biggest first-party releases in recent years. Thanks to Sony displaying some poor redacting skills, documents that were meant to have their numbers blacked out were still quite readable, revealing that both Horizon Forbidden West and Last of Us Part 2 cost well over 200 million to make. For Horizon Forbidden West, documents show that it cost about 212 million to make across 5 years and 300 employees, while the Last Part cost 220 million to make with 200 employees. And they then go on to say that God of War Ragnarok cost around 200 million. That's nearly 4.5 times as much as God of War 3's budget of 44 million back in 2010. So, especially that last line there, you know, with the budget for God of War 3, which was seen as an amazing game when it was released, only 44 million, you know, like what, 13 years ago. And you have to see the multiples that it is now. I mean, what, like I said, 4.5 times. Yeah, I mean, like games, we've said this repeatedly on the show, that games and the Hollywood industry are pretty much on par when it comes to producing these AAA titles. I mean, 200 million was how much they paid for Flash.
Well, people probably wondering, what is that money spent on? It's not spent on anything. It's salaries. That's what it is. Because you've got to remember, everything you're playing is digital, right? These budgets include obviously marketing and stuff as well. But you look at, you're paying the salaries of the entire team for 5 years to make that game, right? You've got to put a budget in on how much you're going to say to, if Sony, for listeners who aren't aware, if Sony's Santa Monica turn around now and say we want to make God of War, a new God of War game, it's going to come out in 2028, 5 years time. Sony need to look at it and think, okay, we need to commit to 5 years of you developing this game. You have 250 million. That's going to pay all your salaries for the next 5 years, whether you're hiring or firing, made redundant, whatever, to get this game. It's going to pay your electricity bills, your internet bills, everything that it's going to cost, motion capture, voice actors, everything. Same as Hollywood, right? Hollywood obviously pay a lot more different things, and Hollywood, the budgets are so big that different production studios put money into it. That's why you see so many logos at the beginning of a film. So to see that jump is massive, but it's just in time with inflation. You know what I mean? Like salaries have gone up since God of War 3 came out on the PlayStation 3. So budgets are going to go up as well, you know, and that doesn't surprise me. But then I look at games like Horizon Forbidden West and The Last of Us Part 2, and we already know there'll be massive sales successes. They've already made the money back. Last of Us Part 2 instigated HBO to get involved because it was that flipping good. But it's not always win-win situations for video games. Companies can spend this massive amounts of money and have a flop on their hands. Redfall, is that you? But Sony are not. Sony are not immune to that. Sony Santa Monica were making a space game. They had a budget. They probably spent about 40, 50 million quid, and then Shuhei cancelled it and said, make God of War. And then Ragnarok came out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even though Nintendo's not mentioned here, you've got to remember Breath of the Wild, not Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. Did they say it was like it took 6 years to make that game, didn't it? Because, that's 6 years of paying salaries, of paying bills of that office, you know what I mean, to make that game. And these games are so expensive. And that's why they talk about, as games get bigger and bigger, you pay more salaries. Hence, why the rumor, it's only a rumor, but I wouldn't be surprised that Grand Theft Auto 6 will be the first game to cost over $1 billion to develop that isn't like a live service. They don't give a shit because it will make it back in an hour. As soon as that game's launched, GTA is one of those games that will make $1 billion in a day. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be easy for them, but it just shows the risk, man. It's absolutely insane. But just going back to your redaction thing. So what happened is somebody used a black Sharpie, which did black it out until you scan it, because then a light goes through the sheet as it scans and it picked it up, you know.
Oh gosh. But like, okay, well, to be honest, I guess they're comparable to like we were saying about these AAA Hollywood blockbusters, you know, and these games aren't just your throwaway titles. So I guess it makes sense that they're spending that much money on these games, right? So, and look at the quality of them, man. I mean, these Horizon Forbidden West is easily visually alone one of the best looking games of all time. Last of Us 2 is going to be going down to one of the greatest games of all time. So they're definitely spending money in the right places. And no doubt they'll be making the money back after they've sold, well, a considerable amount.
Well, I mean, let me put it this way. I just quickly did it on the calculator. So Horizon is at 8 million. The Horizon Forbidden West was at, the last number count was at like 8 million or something, right?
Yeah.
And yes, the game came out at $70, but it's hit price promotion. So I just dropped it to $50 as an average. If it sold 8 million, it's already made $400 million. Do you know what I mean? So if your game is successful, you make money. Like you look at Final Fantasy 16, that game sold 3 million. So it was $70, right? It sold 3.6 million. Oh, wait. So $70 times 3.6 million copies in its first 5 days. It made 252 million in its first week. Yeah. So it's probably pulled back its production budget, you know what I mean? Like that. And how much was Zelda when Zelda came out? 60.
70.
So $70 times 10 million, 700 million. You know what I mean? So it does cost a lot of money to make these games. And then when you put marketing on top of it, you flipping almost doubling it, you know. But if you make that game right and it hits, it makes money. And you can see, and it adds to this now, it adds to what Shuhei was talking about and Jim Ryan when he said, you release a game at full price first. You then have sales promotions through the time. Then you put it into PlayStation Plus. and then you see another uptick in it. You know what I mean? And there's a way to do these things. You know, whereas Microsoft, they're not spending 250 million on a game and just whacking it on Game Pass. And you think Game Pass, you know, no, that's not happening. Do you know what I mean?
No.
But then it makes you wonder. Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo have how many development teams making games? And those games are years away, and that money is not getting a return for years and years and years. So you might think, yeah, Horizon made the money back, but they've already got their budget for the next game. You know what I mean? So it's constantly spending and spending and spending.
That's what you need.
And making
that's why you need these multiple channels, you know, of multiple streams of income. I mean, Horizon's now going to be turned into a TV show eventually.
Games, VRs, TV show, comics, everything, anime.
They're all looking in all directions to make sure that they can diversify every single brand. Not to mention the PlayStation Plus and the online components. So they'll make it one way or another, but it does also just shows that the game industry is not easy by any stretch. But it would be interesting to see exactly how much Microsoft spent on the likes of Halo Infinite because they're not getting any of that back.
Exactly. Okay, and our final bit of Microsoft, FTC, Sony, Activision news and everything. Once again, it's down to someone's poor redaction skills, most probably Sony, that we've been able to see some financial information pertaining to Sony that it would rather kept quiet. Now, Alex, you always asked, it's just COD. It's just COD. Why? Who cares? It's just Call of Duty. It's one game. You're going to get your answer now as to why it's just COD.
Give it to me.
This time it's to do with how much money Sony makes from Call of Duty, which really exemplifies just how much of a financial hit it would take if Microsoft were to make it an exclusive to Xbox. But it would also show how much money Microsoft would lose if it did that. In 2021 alone, about 14 million users, this is PlayStation, spent 30% of their time playing Call of Duty. 6 million of those people spent 70% of their time. And 1 million PlayStation players do not play any other game because 100% of their entire playing time is just Call of Duty. All that put together amounts to 800 million in the US alone in that 1 year, with the improperly redacted documents appearing to say that Call of Duty in 2021 brings in 1.5 billion globally, just in the United States, right? And that's just on purchasing the game.
Yeah.
Not counting players making any of the myriad of in-game purchases they can make. That 1.5 billion for Sony jumps to $15.9 billion in revenue spent on Call of Duty, on game sales. And this is what we're talking about, that DLC, those add-on packs, those cosmetics, everything. The money is there. When PlayStation Store, when Sony tout in their financials, and when Nvidia or anyone touts in their financials, we made this much revenue. How much is COD and GTA bringing in terms of digital revenue to it? Because you got to remember, like, all the money that Sony say, yeah, we made this much off a PlayStation Store. That's not first party. That's COD money and currency. That's GTA Shark money. That's, FIFA points. All this stuff counts towards it. But that's big numbers from Call of Duty, right? Yeah, I can't believe 1 million people just play nothing but COD on PlayStation in America.
And what are the figures for that? I mean, that is the core. I guess that's the baseline that they're calculating all their finances to. Obviously, everything else is fluctuating. But I mean, think about those million players, 1 million players have all got an Xbox account or even a PlayStation Plus account, still paying their monthly fee.
That's just PlayStation. That was just PlayStation numbers.
That's just PlayStation. I mean?
That's just PlayStation.
Not downloading any of the free games that come on a monthly basis. For PlayStation Plus and the variants. That's great money for them. And I was thinking about that the other day actually. Like, how does Sony actually pay the third-party studios?
It's a percentage base. So there was one thing. Is
it based on download, or is it based on
both? Like, so it came out in the court case as well that Activision turned around to Phil Spencer and says, if you want to keep Call of Duty, because obviously Xbox One was you got to understand, Activision have their estimates based on how much money is Xbox going to bring in, how much money will PlayStation bring in a generation and year by year. Xbox 360 to Xbox One was a car wreck, and nobody was playing on Xbox One. Everybody was playing on PS4. So Microsoft were not hitting the projections Activision wanted. Obviously, PlayStation was picking up the slack because everybody had moved to PS4, right?
Yeah.
So Bobby Kotick turned around and said to Phil Spencer, you now need to give us a higher percentage of everything COD related, or we're going to take COD off your platform, which shows you how bad it must have been doing on there for them to say that, which Microsoft obliged to, and Sony also. But at the moment, the going rate for third party is 30% for everybody. But I think games like GTA and COD and FIFA, there's probably a 38, 39% maybe, but that's off everything. So everything that is sold that is Fortnite related, everything that's sold is Microsoft, Activision related, or EA, they will get 30% of it, and Sony will keep the other 70. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
So anything that, and that's why cosmetics are such a big thing in Fortnite and Rocket League and stuff. To you, it's just 79p for a Terminator skin, but to millions of people who are buying it now, and this is why tech can charge so flipping much for characters. Do you know what I mean? Because Namco, like, we gotta make some money off PlayStation today,
and they will. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money to walk away from, and obviously that's those are eye-watering figures when you look at it. Definitely enough to keep the lights on. Cool. All right then, and now moving on. Enough of that Microsoft BS. We're going to talk about Baldur's Gate 3, and it's been delayed on the PlayStation 5, as it will now be launching on September the 6th, 2023, instead of its previously announced August 31st release date. According to the product manager at Larian Studios, Emily Gira, via the PlayStation blog, said, "The short delay allows us more time to achieve our ambition of 60 frames per second, thanks to the power of the PlayStation 5. Gira also clarifies that if you purchase either the deluxe or the collector's edition, which is meant to grant you access to the game 3 days early, then you'll still be getting it via a code being emailed to you on September the 3rd, 2023. Jira's blog post also dives into the game's deep character creation and gives us a slice at just how massive Baldur's Gate 3 really is, with about 170 hours of cinematics alone, and three times more cinematic dialogue than all 3 Lord of the Rings novels combined. Oh my gosh, man! Like, really?
Yeah,
people actually play this game into end.
They love this game. This game is
really?
It's massive. Dude, this goes into like 15, 20, 25 million sales. You know what I mean? Baldur's Gate is huge, but that's why it's 3. You know, it's not a yearly game. It takes time to make it. And it's interesting. There is no Xbox release at the moment. And the reason why is it's struggling on the Xbox Series S development, which Microsoft require you to make the game. So even though some of these third-party games look amazing, they still have to take the Series S into account. So while we're still looking at the games like God of War, Ragnarok, or the new Spider-Man 2, or Sony first-party games specifically, and why they are a step above everything else on third-party, that's because the third-party does take into account that it has to run on Series S as well. And Baldur's Gate developers have just blatantly come out from Larian Studio saying, yeah, there is no Xbox version. It's going to be even later because we're struggling on the Series S. They don't want the Series S. But Microsoft know, if Microsoft, do you want to sell a $480 Xbox Series X or $200? They want the S to go because the S is guaranteed Game Pass. Do you know what I mean? No matter what. Also on a side note, notice how Microsoft upped the prices and nobody gave a shit in the media. But when Sony did it, you know what I mean? It's like all hellfire and brimstone. But now it's for inflation purposes. Yeah, all right, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's not a massive delay, and obviously people are still getting the content that they were promised if they bought a certain edition early. So not a bad thing in the end.
It's only a few days, really. It just sounds like a great cheap way of promoting the release of the game, which otherwise would have been taken over by the FTC court trial. But yeah, I don't know if I'll be playing that game, but I'm just impressed. Nope. I mean, just at 170 hours alone, that's just staggering.
All right, this is quite exciting news, not just because of the IP itself, but because the publisher is actually going to do it themselves. Number 5, Blade Runner 2033. Labyrinth is a new Blade Runner title from Annapurna Interactive, the storied indie publisher who is taking its first swing at developing a game internally. It was revealed as the closing announcement for Annapurna's 2023 showcase, which provided some small updates on the publisher's other titles and revealed other new games as well. Blade Runner 2033 Labyrinth, however, that I feel like I'm gonna keep fucking it up when I say it. Blade Runner 2033 Labyrinth, however, takes the cake as the biggest announcement of the showcase. Visually, it already looks equal parts stunning and intriguing, which is exactly the vibe of Blade Runner in the first place. A short announcement trailer doesn't exactly tell us a lot about the game, but there are some sly hints that it will be an adventure game in the same vein of recently remastered Blade Runner Classic. There's no word on where Blade Runner 2033 Labyrinth will land platform-wise for now. All we get is that it will be coming to PC and consoles with no release window. And Annapurna, Alex, usually they're very good at finding games and publishing them, are taking a swing at them themselves on that one. It's set between the first and second Blade Runner film as well from a story aspect.
Yeah. I mean, I loved Blade Runner 2049. I thought that was sick. I was wondering how they were actually going to, keep the score, from the 80s, Ridley Scott's original classic. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what they can do with this this game, Labyrinth. But yeah, it's a great world to explore. And Annapurna, obviously, they make classic games anyway. So yeah, I'm looking forward to whenever it's going to be released. But yeah, it's a great franchise. I'm looking forward to it, man. I can't say that enough.
Right.
Yeah, Annapurna. What else have they created? What's the?
Well, they didn't create anything. They've picked up their biggest game is Stray. Probably they signed up Stray and they got Stray out, which was massive on PlayStation. It's finally coming to Xbox now, but it was a massive game on PlayStation Plus. It was a really, really big game.
All right, and so yeah, we're going to be talking about my favorite game, which listeners to the show will know that's a complete lie. While the Grand Theft Auto franchise takes up most of the spotlight when discussing Rockstar's titles
and charts.
Fucking charts. Rockstar titles Red Dead Redemption and his prequel sequel are two games that are absolutely not to be missed, but it's now unfortunately more difficult to play the first game, if at all, you're equipped with as a PlayStation 5. A new rating in Korea, however, for the Red Dead Redemption might be the glimmer of hope that fans have been waiting for, as it could indicate that a remaster, or even better, a remake of Rockstar's excellent Wild West gunslinging classic is making a return. Red Dead Redemption is one of those titles that remains stuck on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 generation of consoles. Hopefully, this is a sign that Rockstar has actually been listening, and I think that's just yes. I mean, they can't go wrong with the Red Dead franchise. I mean, how much has it sold? Red Dead Redemption alone?
Massive. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
20, like upper 20, 30 millions. And it makes sense. I mean, it's been out for such a long time. It does need a remake. It's a classic. It's a temple title. And it's not to say that Rockstar hasn't got the cash.
But dude, listen, you're talking to somebody, like you talked about it then. You got to remember, we couldn't believe it. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a single player, story-driven, 18-rated cowboy game. And it has sold over 55 million copies. That one game. Yeah. Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2 are, and I said this to you, Red Dead Redemption 2 specifically is the best living open world game I have played. And that it's I look at Horizon Forbidden West and how amazing and alive, that's the most alive I've seen a world, right? Because everything is alive in Horizon. It's amazing. But Red Dead Redemption 2's open world is the Wild West.
Yeah.
People just go about their things and doing things. You can stand on a mountain, look down at a town. The NPCs aren't standing still waiting for you to trigger them. They're doing their shit. You know what I mean? And it's just unfucking believable. And it's beautiful. And the story is amazing. It's the best. It's still to this day. And I'm trying to make sure I'm not being controversial on it. I'm trying to think of all the open world games I played. It's still the best open world game I've played. Red Dead Redemption 2. You know what I mean? Like, as amazing as Horizon is, it's not a touch on Red Dead because you get so engrossed in the story. It's unbelievable. And I want to play the original Red Dead again, but it is tied to PS. I refuse to switch the PS3 on. You know what I mean? Because I ain't gonna wait 5 days for it to do an update. So it's exciting to see that it could be coming. And yeah, maybe it brings back that story. We reported it months ago that Rockstar had put all their remasters and remakes on the back burner, but that included Red Dead Redemption 2. But more importantly, it also included Grand Theft Auto 4 as a full-blown remaster. So could we be seeing a turn now? Are they refocusing now that they've passed that certain development milestone of GTA 6?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, possibly. I think it would also help reintroduce the franchise to a new generation. I mean, that was like 2010 that it came out. There's going to be a whole slew of the market, which is now much bigger, and obviously the technology is so much more advanced now, which obviously the game could take advantage of, and especially with how GTA 6 is looking up. Imagine those types of graphics and effects, being translated over to the Red Dead Redemption. I mean, Red Dead 2 alone. I mean, I remember, you showcasing the snow before. I mean, that was way before Horizon was doing it, and it looked impeccable. Imagine that today with the water effects and the visuals that they could throw at it now. Not to mention throwing it at 60 frames per second in 4K and all the bells and whistles. But yeah, man, it makes sense. It makes sense. A Red Dead Redemption collection, and then maybe, hopefully, Red Dead Redemption 3 if the story warrants it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are here and we've got last week's charts for you. Now, yes, I sound different. As you may have gauged already, Demi hasn't been on the show for the last few weeks. Her work life has exploded, and she bowled a farewell to the latest PS5. We wish her all the best. And we'll move on anyway, Alex. It's back to me and you doing the charts. Are you ready? Okay. Before I start, Aliens Dark Descent from Focus Home Entertainment debuted at number 11, so it just missed out on the top 10. And Crash Team Rumble crossed the finishing line at number 15. So they didn't make the top 10. But in regards to the top 10, oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, FIFA 23 is at number 10. Is it going to fall out the chart? It's going to happen, mate. I cannot believe it. At number 9, Hogwarts Legacy. At number 8, Diablo 4. At number 7, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. At number 6, God of War and Ragnarok. At number 5, Formula 1 2023, which is down with a 51% sales drop. At number 4, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. At number 3 is a new release, is a Sonic Origins Plus. It did the best on the Switch at 52% of sales, followed by PlayStation 5 at 29%, Xbox Series X and S at 11%, and then the PS4 version did 9%, which was quite big. At number 2, you have Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which dropped 35% week on week. And at number 1, as expected, box sales only, Final Fantasy 16 winning at number 1. Now, what's interesting about this is they already announced that in its opening weekend or week or whatever, it sold 3.6 million copies worldwide, which is obviously less than the previous Final Fantasy 15, but that was multi-platform, whereas this is just PS5 exclusive. I don't know if you saw it, but the Final Fantasy marketing around the world it looked mad. Did you see the 3D screen? Like,
no,
the dragons and everything coming out. It was really, really cool.
Oh,
yeah. Just want to give a shout out. Street Fighter 6 fell out the top 10 and it dropped to number 2021, dropped to 21 with a 36% sales dip. So to drop from the top 10 to number 21 with just 36% shows how close the games are. You know what I mean? And I want to shout out Forspoken, Alex.
Why?
Because there was big hype on the game and then people played it like, this is shit. And it sold okay week 1 and then it died, right? Then there was an update that came out and it apparently fixed a lot about Forspoken. And I can't stop seeing it now because Forspoken, the other Square Enix PS5 exclusive release this year, is up to number 12 with a 46% rise in sales week on week. But Alex, it's quietly the 3rd consecutive week of growth for this game. It is growing week on week on week on week. And I had a look, it's not on price promotion at retail either.
Okay.
So people are getting into it and they could have, I think, okay, Was it the build up to Final Fantasy 16 and people were thinking, "Oh, I'm getting ready, let's play Forspoken." And I spoke to a few people friends who I know who bought it and didn't like it and they stopped playing it, whatever. They've gone back into it and they're playing it and they're loving it. And they're like, it's balanced, it's tuned, it's performing better from a technical standpoint as well. I was like, oh, I might have to look into this game, you know. I'm gonna wait for it to hit PlayStation Plus, obviously.
I think
But
it is as well.
I'm
I think. No, sorry.
no, I'm just saying. I'm gonna wait for it to hit PlayStation Plus. But at first, I was like, yeah, I'm not interested. But I am actually interested now that it's been fixed and a lot of people are playing it again.
Yeah, I think it's all like you said. I think it's the Square effect or the Final Fantasy 16 effect. Like now that the game's finally been released, like all that anticipation has pretty much now been surfaced. Everybody knows and understands how the game actually plays. The marks are kind of divided across the board. Some people like the fact that it's more of an action RPG. Some people hate the fact that it's no longer a turn-based battle. But yeah, there's also those people who don't really like Final Fantasy at all, but they're still interested to see what Square's actually got to offer. And Forspoken obviously ticks that box. So like myself, when I played the first game, I played the demo that they released, and yeah, it was janky as fuck. It was, and that did really turn me off. But now after that patch, I will actually most likely give it some time as well. But anyway, besides that, I know that Final Fantasy 16 has made its way to number 1. Congratulations to them. But that's going to be kicked off the top spot by next week. You know what game's going to do it? The Legend of Zelda.
I'll tell you what, I'll just look crazy. As soon as the football season finished, FIFA just went down. Now I'm waiting to see, will it fall out of the top 10 before the Women's World Cup inevitably lifts it back up? That will be interesting to see. I think it'll lift it. I think FIFA 23 is finished now at number 1. It won't go back to number 1 anymore. But yeah, man, it's just crazy to see that game has been in the top 3, and in the last few weeks it's obviously dropped out. And then now it's at number 10. It is falling. It's crazy how close we are to the end of FIFA being in the top 10, and Demi's hate for it, and she's not even here anymore to talk about it and revel in its loss out of the top 10. All right, well, Alex, we spoke a lot about Microsoft this week. I'm so happy we're getting to the end of it. And speaking of the end, I think we're at the end of the show this week. We've gone way over the allotted time that we thought we were going to do. You know what I mean? So I'm going to pass it over to you for any final comments.
Hold on. I just want to just jump in at some point, really, because I know you like to just throw back to me, and I would normally have like the last word of the day. But before that, the listeners have been speaking to us and have been writing in and constantly asking that we bring this segment back. So, listeners.
Oh, okay. What were we talking about? How have I not seen this or heard this? What's going on here?
Listeners, I have heard you. And I figured what a better place to bring it back than in episode 150. Now, listeners, welcome back to the PlayStation quiz.
Oh my God, don't do this shit to me, man. I thought I retired. I don't want to do it anymore, man. It's getting harder and harder.
Well, for those of you who don't know, this was a segment where we tested Sonny's infinite knowledge on everything PlayStation. Before we stopped, he was at 25 for 25. I mean, I'm just thinking that's actually true. But anyway, we'll run with it for now. But anyway, we're going to bring it back just for today. And we've got a few questions for you. And are you ready, mate? We're going to test.
No, I'm not. I'm thinking, for God's sake, man's going to just kill the perfect record, on one fiddy. You know what I mean? 50 Cent, quickly come in, cut him off.
50 can't help you now, man. So anyway, here's the question. Are you ready? Get that PlayStation encyclopedia of a brain of yours.
I love how I started the show with a WWE reference, a couple of them, and then now you're chucking it right back at me. Are you ready? Like Triple H, all right, Triple H me, man, hit me. Oh, fucking hell.
Here we go. Is everybody listening? And you can play at home as well too, Pooh. With it being a year since PlayStation Plus reintroduced itself, what are the top 3 games played through PlayStation Plus?
Oh my God. Oh, so when you mean reintroduce, you mean in the tier system?
The tier system. Okay.
I'm
going to give you an option.
I think I saw this. I saw one of them. I know one is definitely Stray, because that was a headline that we spoke about a few weeks ago. So Stray's number 1. Okay. Shit, what has been on PlayStation Plus then? Fucking third-party game. The Last of Us has been on there, but I'm going to say Ghost of Tsushima is 1, just because I know that's got the highest trophy count. So Stray, Ghost of Tsushima, and I'm stuck between the last... Spider-Man. I want to say Miles. I want to say Miles.
Unfortunately, dude, you're definitely still.
Ah!
Yes, it's Stray, it's Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Ghost of Tsushima. You mother.
I was literally about to say The Last of Us Part 2, but then I just thought, I don't know why, I just thought loads of people probably played Miles when Into the Spider-Verse come out. You know what I mean? So I was just like, and across this multiverse and stuff, and I was like, I was just Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Stray's even up there. I didn't realize that game.
I told you how big that game is. Like I told you, it does not. It's only like 4 hours long. You could probably do it even faster, but its platforming is stunning. Alex, you spoke about like how Nintendo will release a game and refine little things to make it feel different. There isn't a better platformer in terms of animation and the way a character moves than Stray, because you got to remember Stray's got the cat has to be able to jump, land, leap. It has to have a balance right. It has to be able to do beams, strings, all this stuff, and it does it so well. And it's not a bit. It's a beautiful story. And I told you, you could probably honestly, if you blitz it, you probably see people speed run it in like 2.5 hours. But the story's beautiful. You know what I mean? It's a robot future in a world that is decaying because of robots and stuff like that or whatever. And you just kind of go.
Is it in a particular city or country or?
No, I can't remember. It's set in the future, like a settlement. You know what I mean? But there's cool twists in it. And again, like I said, I recommend it, dude. I think it's coming off PlayStation Plus this month in July. So if I was you, honest to God, I'll just play for like half an hour and I guarantee you'd finish it in definitely 2 sittings. But it's worth it.
Okay, well, that sounds like this week's unofficial game recommendation from the latest PS5.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
That was a very passionate review of the game, and actually, you hyped me up. Actually, I might switch it on for tomorrow. That'll be my Saturday morning play.
Dude, like I says, you don't even have to. No, you have to download it to play it. I think the stream is only on PS4 version, but you want to play the PS5 version because it is a beautiful looking game as well, man. It is a beautiful looking game. But like I said, you'll finish it in 2 sittings and you'll say Stray's done. You know. Okay, now after being hijacked and ransacked and taken for granted with the PlayStation Plus question, I'm gonna say this now, right? You bringing this back every week, one question, right? You're getting some shit back next week, and it might not be Jeopardy. It might be something else. Ladies and gentlemen, right? I'm gonna throw it to you. If Alex is bringing back this PlayStation quiz to try and stumble me, what do I do? Do we bring back Jeopardy for Alex? Which you, the listeners, or if you're Patreon viewers, can obviously try and gauge yourself. Can we stumble Alex on something? Can it be a quiz about a particular subject? Let me know. And whatever wins, we will do, right? On Alex. We're going to fucking get you.
Yeah, I'm going to beat you on this anyway, regardless. But yes, listeners...
We'll see. We shall
remember,
see.
listeners, every week, every week, we're going to bring this back because it's just funny just seeing you sweat in the corner about these. But yes, listeners, if you do have any questions, anything that you can feel that will stumble Sonny's infinite brain of PlayStation, all but Sony, actually all including Sony, then let us know, and obviously you know how to get in touch with us. And also use Twitter as well. We're on that. We're looking out for you there.
Yeah, at latest PS5. And listeners, just a heads up as well, if you are on Patreon, we recorded late this week. If you're 3rd tier, you'll get it on Friday. If you're 2nd and 1st tier, you'll get it on Saturday. It will go public to everybody on Sunday night / Monday morning. And obviously, we will update you each and every week in the descriptions of the dates of when this episode goes live each and every week. So with that being said, Alex, you have the final word. Don't fucking fake redact this shit.
That was it. The only one. But anyway,
here's the best one. Don't use a Sharpie to redact a document.
Burn that motherfucker. Burn after reading.
Good night, everybody.
Peace.